Alright, hello everybody. I'm going to try to do this. I don't have, I guess I don't have technically all like the perfect equipment for this setup, so, and that's just because I wanted to do it a really specific way for you. I don't feel like this happens a lot. So what I did was I've recorded some audio from my sax just straight through, and what I'm using for that is this little guy right here, a Shure wireless system with a I was using the Beta 98H, but I recently got another microphone. I can't remember what model it is right now, but I'll try and remember to put that down in the description. And if I don't, remind me. And if you're curious, don't be afraid to ask, because that'll just remind me. So I just took the audio straight from this and I recorded it. And I did that because I want you to hear exactly what the pedals hear, exactly what's going into them, so you can hear exactly what the pedals do to that sound. So let me play some clips for you. We'll go with, I wanted to do just a few little runs here, like this. Okay, so you can hear it's not the like fullest saxophone sound. The microphone has some limitations on the frequency range and kind of a specific frequency response. So that's what you're hearing. You're really hearing the microphone sort of change the sound of the sax. I've got it in a good position to pick up everything evenly. That's a video for later. But yeah, that's what's going into the pedals. So let's get to the meat of it. Okay, the first thing that the sound, sorry, everything's moving around. I'm bumping into everything. So the first thing that it goes through is this octave pedal. And so the saxophone goes in, and then we get the octave pedal. And that's because I don't want the octave pedal to affect anything after it here. I want, so I just want that first. Basically, if I wanted to switch from alto to bari, boom. Like that's the kind of thing I want. And then now bari's going into all the pedals. Something like that, okay? So let's hear that lick again. I'll just loop it here. And this is definitely just the untreated audio. I'm just playing it from another device, but untreated audio. It's not colored by the device or anything. You know, it's a good recording. So I haven't done anything to the sound yet. This should be exactly what the microphone's hearing. And I also want to recommend that you use some headphones or like some good speakers to listen, because later on there are going to be some stereo effects, and it's going to matter that you have some good left and right sounds going on. But honestly, if a phone has stereo speakers, this should translate. That's because I've sort of set everything up to translate when I'm playing along with a loud rock band. So it has to be pretty like forward and up front. Not a whole lot of subtlety going on here. So let's hear that lick. Okay, with the octave. You can hear it kind of has a little bit of a robotic sound. I can adjust these knobs here to help with that. Let's see. Sorry, you don't have a very good view of that. Alright, so we've got... that doesn't really help, does it? So we've got the big knob in the middle just picks the interval. So it's actually a harmony pedal. I could have a fifth up going the whole time, but I've just selected the octave interval, and then it chooses between octave up, octave down, or a cool like middle mode. I just use the octave down, and then it has separate knobs for wet and dry sound. So wet means it's the sound that's affected by the pedal, and dry means it's the sound that hasn't been affected. It just kind of passes it through, adds it on top of the other sound. In this way I can blend the octave up and down sound like this. So for me, the octave down sound is a little... it's pretty bassy. I mean, it's dropping everything down an octave. It doesn't really cut through from a loud band, though. So add a little bit of dry. Now that's not the way I had it, because I tend to use it the other way in the band setting, where I want my dry signal to be kind of where it was, and I just want to thicken my sound with some octave down like this. So you can hear it really sounds like me and another player are, are playing the same thing an octave apart. I like that a lot, that there's a lot of separation between those two. Now the next one, not to make any of the other pedals feel bad, but this is really my pride and joy right here. This Q-Tron, this EHX elctro-harmonics Q-Tron Plus. I got, when I first started playing with effects, let me try to adjust this focus for a second really quickly. Okay, I don't feel like that did a whole lot, but anyway, the EHX, I'll get a little closer maybe. There we go. Now we can see maybe more of the controls and stuff. Well, that actually didn't help. One day I'll have this figured out. Okay. So, with our Q-Tron, that's a lot brighter than I thought it was. With the Q-Tron, it's what's called an envelope filter. And an envelope filter is named that way. You can think of it as an envelope, okay? So it takes what you're trying to send, and if it all fits in the envelope, it packages it up nicely, and it seals, and it's this nice envelope. If there's too much, then it spills out of the envelope, and you can, it all doesn't fit, so you've got some of the original stuff sticking out of the envelope, okay? If you think of a gift bag with like a bunch of tissue paper sticking out on top, and that tissue paper is like, crinkly and rustly and stuff, think of it that way. Or all the tissue paper could be stuffed down into the bag, and then now it's like it doesn't look all frilly and stuff. So it kind of works like that. The sound is this wah sound that we've all probably heard at some point. And well, let me play the original clip again, and then I'll give you that sound. And now with the Q-Tron. Now, one thing I've done here with the recording side of things, it has changed the levels just a little bit. So let me turn the recording level up, just so I don't have to change all the settings on the Q-Tron and change them all again later. Okay, so that's how it sounds. You can see it has this little overdrive light that lets me know when things are spilling out of the envelope, okay? But I think you can, maybe the analogy works out now that you hear it, of everything kind of fits nicely in there. It doesn't sound too much like it's exploding or spreading until that envelope is full and the overdrive happens. Okay, now one thing I noticed is at some point I've accidentally dropped the peak knob down, so let me adjust that. Okay, there we go. So, one thing I learned to do with this pedal, well, let me switch back and forth during this. In a live setting, taking that much of the high end of the sound out really muddies it up and keeps it from cutting through the mix. I'm basically gonna get lost. Now, I'll make another video later where I go through all the settings of this pedal and do a deeper dive into each one, but for now I want to do this overview so you can see what I'm working with. So I'm going to move on and show you how I solved this problem, and that is with that right there. That's a VHT Boost Comp. You can see a bunch of markings all over it. I got this second hand, or probably like fifth or sixth hand, from the like ultimate friend of mine from Arkansas, John Van Houten. And this whole pedal board, this pedal and another pedal you'll see later, came from him, as well as many of the pedals that I have used throughout my playing. I think maybe even also my first ever pedal, Digitech RP255. I'll have to get a confirmation of that from John, but that might have even been his as well. So I solved this Q-Tron problem with this Boost Comp, and that comp stands for compressor. Before I was running this before the Q-Tron to try to tame the sound going in there, but then if I left it on, it would tame some of the acoustic sound when I'm trying to like rock and roll and funk and like play some real, maybe even slow ballady stuff with more expression, and it compresses that down. So I did have another tiny little boost pedal, a little volume pedal here in the loop, and it actually quit on me for some reason. It cut out. It was a really, really cheap pedal. But later on, actually just recently, like last week, I had the realization, oh, I need to put that boost comp inside the Q-Tron so I can really tailor that quacky, funky sound. So let me go through that with you. Here's how that works. So I've got the raw sound. And then the Q-Tron. So the important thing to know about the boost comp being in the effects loop of the Q-Tron is that it doesn't affect how the Q-Tron opens and closes. Like, it doesn't affect how big the envelope is. That's still affected only by the Q-Tron and the volume of the thing you put in. This just controls kind of what happens in the Q-Tron as far as like the level and the sound, without putting another pedal after it that you would also have to turn on every time you turn on the Q-Tron. That's how I kind of see it, because that's what I was having to do before. I would have to like turn two pedals on to have this one sound, and this just makes it one switch and I'm good. So let's do it with the boost comp on. So first the boost, you can see I've got, these are EQ knobs. Left is low and right is high right there. And I've got them turned down a little bit. The normal is up at noon there, so I've got them turned to the left. Okay, so I used the bass knob here because I can hear some of the key noise. I want to take that out, so I can take that out. And then I use the treble knob to take down some of that distortion noise at the top of the horn. Okay, and then I use the compression side to help me with some of those attacks that come out way higher. And it just when I do a sustained note or something, it just helps kind of, it helps make the effect more like obvious, I guess. And then if I need to adjust the level on this, so then I get a good quacky sound. So that might actually be more apparent on a different, let's see. I recorded some different things. Okay, so that's, it does a really good job of reproducing that around the horn. Let's see. What was this one? Yeah, down in the lower part of the horn there, it has a big effect. So, okay, let's move on to something else. Next, we have another pedal by Electro-Harmonics. The Canyon. This one I also got kind of recently. It's a reverb slash delay pedal. It also has, it's mainly a delay pedal. It also has a loop function that I just haven't used. I don't use. But yeah, it's several different delays, several different sounds. I like to use it. I wanted a delay that I could, a delay or a reverb that I could turn on and basically lose all of the like original saxophone sound and have almost nothing but that big chambery reverb. And this is for, in the band I play with, Flowtone, there are a lot of upfront sounds. Like there's a guitar playing a melody or pattern underneath a vocalist singing out front with some vocal harmonies, and then there's also bass and also drums, and that's a lot of kind of center channel, like right in front sound. And so I wanted to make sure, first of all, that my sound wasn't conflicting with any of that, covering any of that up, or causing any, I don't know, like kind of bumping into it in the like EQ spectrum or anything like that. So I wanted a reverb that would just make it so washy and round that it just couldn't get in the way of anything. It would just add this meat to the sound, and I could play some nice voice leading lines. They wouldn't interfere with anything, but you definitely get a sense it like fills up a room with sound. It's really a lot of fun, and it's really cool for that. So this is how that sounds. Let's see. So I've got a section here I'm going to play without the okay. So I'll just make it that short. Doesn't need to be too long. And now you should be able to hear with this, it just goes crazy. Okay. Okay, and another thing about it is it does add a little bit. The effect I'm using on it is called shimmer. That's the delay type that I'm using on it. So this knob on top actually is at 12 o'clock. It's 100% both the dry and wet. It's kind of like the two knobs from the harmonic square, but it's just combined into one knob. So you're sort of choosing which way, more dry sound or more wet sound. So let me adjust that, and you can kind of hear what I'm dealing with. So all the way down, it's just dry. Now it's even. And then all the way wet. Okay. So this way, I can really wash out the sound. And there's a lot of stuff I do later in the chain that will make a lot of difference for this. Now, one thing I forgot to do earlier, I want to go, well, actually, I'm going to keep moving on because once I've explained each pedal, I'm going to kind of use them, start doing combos, and so you can hear those. Next, this is another example of a pedal I got from John Van Houten. This is the ARP 87, and even in the best of light, it is almost impossible to read the text under all those knobs. But basically, it's another delay pedal, and it's got some kind of level and how many repeats and kind of the normal stuff a delay pedal has. It has 4 different types that are in this knob, so it's got a digital, analog, lo-fi, and spring reverb type on there. I really like the lo-fi setting. I had it on spring for something else, and I can't remember what, but I usually use the lo-fi setting. And then this light down here that is going crazy, that's a tap tempo. So whatever tempo the song is going, I can dial this in. And then it's got another knob that says kind of what to do with that tempo. You want me to play eighth notes in that tempo, dotted eighth notes in that tempo, quarter notes, or maybe triplets. Yeah, triplets. So quarter notes, dotted eighths, or triplets, triplet eighths. So here's how that sounds, and I'll turn it on, and then I'll tap the tempo of this in there, and you'll hear what that does. Okay, and of course I can adjust this. I don't like to put it on the quarter note setting that I just had it on for that reason. It can really like set a tempo in stone, and it's really just like on the nose. Here's the quarter note. I don't really like that, so I like to set it to the dotted eighth so that it's not so much like a metronome. It feels more natural to me. And then of course I can adjust how much of that. Now a lot of times I use these two in combination to really back away, sound like I'm in the back of an amphitheater in the town over or something. Here's how that sounds. I would tweak that a little bit with the delay and feedback and stuff on this pedal, and then I'd probably have this go a little bit. I should have tapped like eighth notes or something. Yeah, so something more like that. It still has some shimmer, and it sticks out in a mix, but you might be surprised how quickly that stuff really goes away when you're playing with the other instruments that are more up front and centered. And I keep saying centered because the last pedal I shouldn't. Come on, you can do it. Okay. The last pedal is this Boss BE500. Sorry, VE500. You're not going to be able to see the screen because it's probably actually just the same refresh. Let me turn the light off. Yeah, I think it's going to be impossible to see because of the compensation. So this is a vocal processor, and I have up to this point I have had it on a patch that is called dry. So it's nothing but it's no effects, nothing. This pedal is this is the most powerful pedal I've used. Absolutely. I'll switch to a patch that I use. So let me oh yeah, I forgot that that ARP87, the previous pedal, has a you can barely see it in the corner, that has a hold function. So if I play one note out of the thing I want to hold, I can do that. Check this out. Like this. Nope, not like that. So I would use it a little differently. Let's see if I don't have one that has a more separated example of playing, but maybe that first one. So let's see if I can use it here. So I might do this. It's really if I play one note that I want to have the tails, and if I had them a lot longer, like the repeats turned up, it would make a bigger difference as well. It just lets me control exactly when the repeats are going to happen if I only need it to do that reverb or that delay for a short amount of time. So the Boss. That's the correct name for it. It is the Boss. I can go through here. It's so much digital stuff. I can go through here, and basically the way I use it is I set up a bank for each song. I just name it the song title, and especially with Flowtone, each of them have some unique characteristics, but they have a lot of stuff in common because the band definitely has a sound. But there are different things I want to be able to control, switching from the verse to the chorus or to a bridge, something like that. And this gives me that really just ultimate control. Now the first way that it functions is to, and let me make sure, oh, I already know I am, never mind. I was just going to make sure I was sending the wet signal to the computer and not some other kind of mix, but you can set up some default kind of foundational effects that are going to apply to every bank that you switch through. So I'm going to show you those basic effects I'm going to make sure no other effects are on, and they are not. Okay, am I still on the dry patch? Oh, no, I want to be on... There we go. Okay, so let me make sure everything else is off. Oh, it must have that. If I turn it off on one, it turns it off on everything. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how I have it set up. That's really good. I was worried because the I thought I had done something. So let me turn each of these on one by one. Let me play something else. Some of you might recognize this, and if you do, let everybody else know in the comments what this is. Okay, so we've got that, and I've got another little thing after that. I'm gonna loop this. Well, I don't want to turn it down, but I'll stop it and kind of let you know what I'm doing. So the first thing I have on here is it's got an enhance. It calls it an enhancer, and this is a vocal processor. What that would be doing is kind of adding some sparkle to your voice, basically. I don't use the enhance function itself or the compression. There is a de-esser in this that's really nice. That's just a compressor that makes sure that, like you're probably hearing now, all of my S's and T's and C's and P's and things like that have a really high start to them that can like be kind of harsh. I've lowered the low gain a little bit because you can still hear some key fumbly noise in the mix, so I've taken that down, and another mid frequency where I felt like I heard that a lot, and some other pokey things. This is basically to compensate for the EQ that's coming from the mic that I was talking about. So let me play a little bit without this, and then I'll turn it on. That's as far as I go on that. Alright, here it is. Okay, now it sounds like, just listening to me, and you might have heard this too, it does take the level down just a little bit, but it's not really the overall level. It's because I've taken some things down in the EQ. I don't like to push things up with EQ just because I don't want any specific frequencies. You know, that may sound great with my horn, but then if there were some like kind of white noise or something, I'd be kind of boosting a frequency out of that as well. I'd rather cut frequencies. I don't know. I feel like that's a whole thing, like a whole thing in the audio community, but I've got that on. So that's dropping the volume just a little bit, and I can always make up for that in the main menu of this pedal. I can affect like the input sensitivity and the output volume separately. I can switch it between mic gain and instrument gain levels, depending on what I want to send the house engineer. Just a lot of great tools like that help me use it. So then the next thing I have as a foundation for all the effects is some reverb. And these reverbs are great because they're on every channel, and it's a system-wide. It's another thing like the enhancement where I will customize it, and then that that customization will stick around even when I change patches again. And I said bays, or yeah, bays earlier or something like that, but patches is what they're called. So the reverb stays on. Let me add that in really quickly, and I still have the enhancement on. Okay, so that's just the first reverb. It is, in case you're curious, it's a hall reverb, and I have cut a lot of high end off of it so that it really goes back in the mix. It's not very forward at all, even though it probably sounds like a big difference just playing it right here. And I'll add the second reverb. Now I did that about halfway in. Let me take the first reverb off. Okay, so the second reverb is definitely a lot more subtle, and it's actually a mod reverb, but I think I've taken most of the mod out of it. And what mod usually means is that it kind of detunes or lets the signal sort of degrade, and of course it's not letting, it's simulating a degradation of the signal as the delay happens. I can sort of adjust that, but I've got it turned way down because I don't want it to. It can sound really out of tune. Okay, so actually this isn't the one I was thinking of. There is another mod delay on the ARP that does like really degrade it quickly. This one's definitely more subtle, and that's probably why I'm using it, because I like that subtlety. Now what's really nice is I've made all these changes, but that's fine, because if I change patches now, it's not gonna. Well, I guess it is. Okay, yeah, that was a 60. Let's try it. Oh, I turned on some other effects. Sorry. I didn't think I did that. The next thing I have is... Oh, I've got something weird going on now. Okay, sorry. So the next thing I use now, I would start to get into effects that I've set up for each song. So these are unique to different songs. The main ones I use, I definitely use some chorus. I can play that for you. I'll just mess with that a little bit. Let's go back. Here's a song. So this is a song I play with the band, Flowtone, and this is the actual part that I play. So let me just show you what I do to dial that in. Okay. Oops. Sorry. That's actually nothing but the that's nothing but the onboard, the enhancement, and the reverb that I was talking about. So that's just the enhancement. I might as well call EQ, because that's how I use it. So the EQ and the reverb, that's it. That's all that is. None of the other pedals are turned on or affecting the signal. The VHT is on, but since that's inside the loop of the Q-Tron, it doesn't affect anything unless I turn on the Q-Tron. just in case you saw the lights still on from earlier. So that's nothing but reverb and EQ. Now I can add, I usually add this chorus for, this is the chorus of the song. And for another section, or actually for the chorus, sorry, I usually do have the pan on because earlier I play this same sound, but it's a more direct line. And you can hear now I'm playing more long notes and stuff. And this riff, this beat up, boom, is also being played by the rest of the band. So I don't have to really be in front of it anymore. So I usually turn on this pan. Okay. Actually, I think I had it backwards. Sorry. I use that pan during the verse because it's a more upfront sound. But then when everybody takes over on the chorus, you wouldn't be able to hear it. I was thinking of, I usually turn the ARP on for the chorus, like this. Okay, so that has a really cool back of the room kind of sound. Now, what really makes this happen is when I turn on the Canyon from earlier, and it's all like delay sound, and then the boss takes it and puts it like all the way left and right, so it's not in the middle like the other instruments sound, and then it sounds like it's coming from the back of the room like this. So I can like spread that out in the room, and I can make those repeats kind of less harsh, and that way it's like a backing line and it doesn't get in the way of anything. Just a couple of the other effects I use are like some distortion. Oh, sorry. And I mainly use that if I have a solo on this song, so I use it for that to just really pop out in the mix. But this pedal has a whole lot of functions, and it's definitely multi-effects, and I'll go into a deeper dive on how I use it on the other effects that are possible later, but those are the main things that I use. That's the whole rig. You don't see it right now because I'm using the USB to go to the computer for audio, but it does have stereo XLR output. You can see maybe right there, output left and right. That's stereo XLR, so I can send to a venue, and all that stereo stuff really happens great. And it also has an instrument input to play harmony based on what the instrument input plays, but that's definitely a video for later. So anyway, if you watched along, thank you so much. Thanks Absolute Lambda for joining live here. Break down what each pedal does to a saxophone and like why, because I know you can get crazy sounds out of some pedals where it doesn't sound like a saxophone at all. But my goal was really just to like augment the capabilities of a saxophone so that it's still a saxophone and people go, wow, that's cool, that's definitely a saxophone, but I didn't know you could do that with a saxophone. So it's so that it won't be the same as like playing a keyboard or something in some cases when you get those really wild sounds. All right, so yeah, look out for those, and I'll see you then.